President Trump this past week raising eyebrows for weighing in on the impact of immigration in Europe. So here's what he said during his news conference with Theresa May on Friday.
I think they better watch themselves because you are changing culture. You are changing a lot of things. You're changing security. Look at what's happening. I mean, you take a look. I mean, look at what's happening to different countries that never had difficulty, never had problems. But I do not think it's good for Europe, and I don't think it's good for our country. We're, as you know, far superior to anything that's happened before, but we have very bad immigration laws.
Joining me now on set, Howell, former executive editor at the New York Times and MSNBC contributor, and from Texas, Roland Martin, host at TV One and soon to launch his new daily digital show, Roland Martin Unfiltered. We'll look forward to that. So, gentlemen, with a welcome to you both, and Howell back here to the broadcast this hour. Starting with you here, given your position previously as the London bureau chief, I'm curious how you think European leaders are interpreting that remark from the president.
They're appalled. I don't have much to add to that.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I was about to say, appalled actually can, wrap that up pretty simply. Roland, how about you? Reading into these comments and the timing of them, what do you think?
Well, first of all, Donald Trump is using the language of white nationalists. We've heard Stephen Miller use that same language. When I interviewed the white racist Richard Spencer on my TV One show, he used the exact same language. And so it is all about 2043. And 2043 in America is when America will become a nation that is majority people of color. And so what Trump is doing is he is pressing the buttons of white fear. He has done that from the moment he descended down that escalator, announcing he was running for president. And so when you listen to what he is saying by, oh, these cultures are changing, well, guess what? That's also what has made America great. But unfortunately, when you think about Europe and you think about even America, it has always been about white immigration. Now when you say it's people of color, oh my God, now it's bad, now it's scary. He knows exactly what he's doing. He has to be called out on it.
Gentlemen, I want to turn to a topic that has resurfaced in the news, and I'll begin with you, Howell, on this, that the Justice Department this past week has reopened the investigation into the case of the murder of Emmett Till. It's based on new information. I know that you wrote a book about the civil rights movement. So what do you, first of all, make of this move by the Justice Department?
Well, I agree with the author of the book that revealed the perjured testimony in the Till case 50 years ago, that this is a cynical act by an Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, who has from the start of his career, from the time he was a Montgomery, Alabama college student body president, to this day aligned himself with the most racist elements of the Democratic and Republican parties. So it's simply a move for which he has no credibility and no excuse. The Till case in August of '55 and Rosa Parks standing up in December of '55 changed the life of everyone in the South. And Emmett Till changed my life literally. One of our watchers today in New York, Grady Hutchinson, who is retired here, was the black housekeeper in my home. I was 12 years old, and she brought me the Jet magazine pictures of Emmett Till in his coffin, explained to me what it meant, and moreover told me that black people were being killed not only in Mississippi, but in Birmingham by the Klan and the police. So that case was a life-changing event for me, and I just think it's appalling that someone with no civil rights credentials like Jeff Sessions would try to dress up his image.
It is extraordinary. The mother, Roland, I just want to remind viewers that that impression that's left here on Howell was intended to get there by Emmett Till's mother, that 14-year-old boy who was so brutally killed. She had an open casket there so that people could see exactly what was done to him.
Right, and that's exactly what Emmett Till Mobley did. And I was former executive editor of the Chicago Defender. Chicago Defender, along with Jet Magazine, published that photo of Emmett Till on their covers. And then when his body was exhumed, I actually republished it when I ran the paper because this generation needed to see it as well. And so, look, here's my take on Jeff Sessions. Do I appreciate the Department of Justice reopening this? Yes. But I can still be critical of every other action that he has taken. Also, the author of this book, look, look, I can't let him off the hook as well. He waited until he published this book to turn his notes over. Carolyn Bryant made these comments a long time ago, and I do believe I don't care how old she is, she should be held to task because her comments led to the murder, the assassination of Emmett Till. But the challenge to Jeff Sessions should be, you're reopening this case, but how about the fact by how he deliberately has said they're pulling back from investigating cases of police corruption today. You're looking at what is happening all across this country, and that's been a problem. He tried to pull out of the consent decree in Baltimore, backing away out of Chicago as well. And so Jeff Sessions, great. DOJ reopening this case, but why don't you look at the Emmett Tills of 2018 and 2017 and 2016? The DOJ still has not made a decision in the Eric Garner case, not under Obama and not now under Jeff Sessions. And so he should be called out, but also they still should reopen this case.
Roland, to that point there, and I'll ask this of you, Howell, the fact is that the Trump administration has been criticized pretty heavily for lack of sensitivity to minorities, African Americans in particular. Might this be a corrective step? It didn't seem like you would agree with that by your previous statement, but what do you think, Howell? You're saying no, asking Howell.
I respect Roland's authority on these matters. We have a slightly different take on this, perhaps. But the important thing is the infiltration of political influence into the justice system. While President Trump is entertaining the world with his odd behavior on the global stage, Jeff Sessions is taking the Justice Department in a racist, discriminatory direction in a range of cases, as Roland was indicating.
Yeah.
True, and they are investigating black activists, and they're pulling back on the investigation of white domestic terrorists. And so absolutely, this DOJ has a huge problem. They had one meeting with civil rights leaders, didn't really amount to anything. The president refuses to sit down with civil rights leaders, and he should. And we have a problem in America. Not only that, when you consistently have white Americans calling the cops on black people for cutting the grass, listening to yoga in their car, we have a problem here, and this DOJ is not the friend of African Americans. And I would challenge Jeff Sessions or any of them to say to do more about cases today.
People calling the cops on elected officials going door to door to canvass. I mean, it has been quite extraordinary. Howell Raines, Roland Martin, gentlemen, thank you both so much.
Thanks a lot.